Darren, the human known as the Master of Clay, closed his shop late at night. The city around him was quiet, and only a few dim lights still glowed in the alien streets. His shop was small, but everyone in the city knew his name. He was the only human who could shape living clay, a strange glowing material that felt soft like mud, but moved like it had a heart of its own. Aliens from many clans came to him when they needed help. Some wanted protective clay shields. Some wanted small living pets made from clay. Some came for repairs when their clay tools broke. Darren never refused simple requests. He enjoyed his work and the city welcomed him, but tonight felt different. The air was colder. The streets were empty. Even the glowing signs on the buildings flickered, like they were afraid of something. Darren turned the final lamp off and reached for the door handle. But before he could leave, he heard a small knock. It was soft, almost like a whisper. He froze. No one came this late. And the knock came again, still soft, but urgent. He opened the door slowly. A small alien girl stood outside, shaking from head to toe. She looked no older than 10. Her skin was a gentle silver color, her eyes bright purple, but filled with fear. She kept looking behind her, as if someone was following her. "Child, are you lost?" Darren asked in a calm voice. He knew alien children sometimes wandered far from home, but the girl shook her head quickly. No, human. I came for you." Her voice was tiny, almost weak. She held something wrapped in old cloth close to her chest. Darren noticed the cloth was torn and dirty, like she had run through rough places. "Why come to me?" he asked gently. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, as if she feared being seen. After she entered, she pushed the door shut with trembling hands. Darren frowned. "What is wrong? Are you in danger?" The girl nodded slowly. Her lips trembled before she could speak. I need your help, please. You're the only one who can do it." Darren was confused. "Do what?" She looked down at the wrapped object and slowly unwrapped it. A soft blue light spilled out. It was not ordinary living clay. Darren's eyes widened as he saw it clearly. The small piece in her hands glowed brighter, deeper, and more alive than any clay he had ever touched. This was royal, living clay, a forbidden material only the king was allowed to use. Anyone caught with it could be arrested. Anyone who shaped it without the king's permission could be executed. Darren stepped back. "Where did you get this? This is dangerous." The girl gripped the clay tighter. "I know. That's why I need you. Someone is coming. They want this clay. And they want me." A chill ran down Darren's spine. "Please," she whispered. "You are the master of clay. Only you can shape it before they arrive." Darren asked the first question that came to his mind. "Shape it into what?" The girl's purple eyes filled with tears. "A key." Darren blinked. "A key for what?" She did not answer. Instead, she stepped closer and looked up at him with eyes full of fear and hope. "I will explain. But not yet. We don't have time." Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside. Heavy footsteps. Many of them. Darren moved to the window and peeked through the curtain. A group of armored alien guards marched down the street, scanning every door. Their armor shimmered with the royal symbol. The girl whispered urgently, "They followed me. If they find us, they will take the clay. And kill me." Darren's heartbeat grew louder. He didn't know who this girl really was. He didn't know why she carried royal clay. But he knew one thing. She was terrified, alone, and someone wanted to harm her. He took a deep breath. "Come with me. Stay quiet." The girl nodded quickly. Darren locked the door, shut the windows, and turned off every light. The guards' shadows stretched across the street. Stopping near his shop, the girl squeezed the royal clay to her chest. "Master of Clay, please help me. You are my only hope." And outside, a deep voice shouted, "Search every building. The human must not escape." Darren knew this night was only the beginning. Darren held his breath as the shadows of the armored guards moved across his shop window. Their steps were slow and heavy, like predators searching for prey. The girl stayed close behind him, her small hands shaking as she clutched the glowing royal clay to her chest. He whispered, "Stay low. Do not move." The girl nodded, sliding behind a shelf filled with clay tools. Darren peeked through a crack in the curtains. The guards scanned every doorway with bright blue lights. Their armor had the royal crest, which told Darren one thing: whoever wanted the child was powerful, very powerful. But the girl, she was tiny, fragile, and terrified. Why would royal soldiers chase a child? Darren closed the curtains again and moved closer to her. The girl breathed fast, like she was trying hard not to cry. "What is your name?" he asked gently. The girl hesitated, as if even her name was dangerous. "Lyra," she finally whispered. "And why do they want you, Lyra?" She shook her head quickly. "I can't say. Not yet." Darren could see fear in her eyes, fear so strong that it kept her silent. He knelt so he could look at her directly. "Lyra, I cannot help you if I do not understand what is happening. Please tell me the truth." Lyra looked away, holding the cloth tighter around the clay. There was a long pause. The only sound was the guards outside, calling orders and searching the street. Then Lyra took a deep breath. "My family is gone." Darren froze. "Gone? What do you mean?" "They were taken," she whispered. "All of them. My mother, my brothers, my guards." Her small voice shook. "They were taken because of this clay. And because of me." Darren felt his heart tighten. "Who took them?" Lyra wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "General Crass." Her voice cracked when she said the name. "He worked for my father, but he betrayed him. He wanted the royal clay. He said it has power. Power no one should control." Darren had heard stories about General Crass, stories of a strong warrior with a cold heart. Some said he wanted to become king himself. Some said he had secret experiments hidden across the planet. But Darren never believed them fully. Until now, Lyra continued, her voice trembling. "My father refused to give Crass any of the clay. So Crass arrested him and locked him underground, somewhere no one can find." Darren stared at her in shock. "Your father? Who is he?" Lyra lowered her head. She looked almost ashamed, even though she had no reason to be. "My father is the king." The room fell silent. Darren blinked. The child in front of him, the one hiding behind shelves and running through dark streets, was the princess of the planet. "That means you," he whispered. "Yes," she said, her voice tiny. "I am Princess Lyra of the Silver Crown." Darren felt his chest grow heavy. If the king was captured, if the princess was hunted, then the entire kingdom was not what it seemed. He swallowed hard. "And the clay you carry, this royal living clay, why do you need me to shape it?" Lyra looked up with eyes full of desperation. "Because only royal clay can make a key strong enough to open my father's prison." She held the glowing clay in her hands, and it pulsed like a beating heart. Darren shook his head slowly. "Lyra, shaping royal clay is forbidden. If anyone discovers I touched it, they will execute me." Lyra's face broke with fear and sadness. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not beg this time. She simply said, "I know. And I am sorry. But you are the only one who can help me. Humans are not controlled by the old laws of our kingdom. You are the only one the clay will obey with full power." Darren looked at the clay in her trembling hands. Warm light shined through her fingers. "If I do this," he said quietly, "you will become the most hunted person in this city. And so will I." Lyra nodded. "I already am." Suddenly, loud banging shook the door. The guards had reached his shop. "Open this door." A deep voice commanded. "By royal order." Lyra gasped and grabbed Darren's sleeve. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Please, help me. You are my only hope." Darren looked at the door, then at Lyra, then at the piece of royal clay, glowing like a star in her hands. He knew what choice he had to make, and it would change both their lives forever. The guards kept pounding on the door, each strike louder than the one before. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra held the royal clay close to her chest, her small hands shaking hard. Darren's heart raced, but his mind stayed clear. He had survived dangerous mines, alien storms, and clay beasts before. But nothing felt as frightening as this moment. He grabbed Lyra's hand. "Come, we must move. They will break the door soon." He guided her to the back of the shop, where stacks of clay jars reached the ceiling. Behind the lowest stack was a narrow door, hidden workshop only he used. He pushed it open and led her inside. The room was small, warm, and filled with the soft smell of clay. The glowing crystals on the walls flickered to life as they entered. Darren locked the door behind him and slid a heavy beam across it. The pounding outside continued, but here they had a moment of safety. Lyra sat down on a low bench, breathing fast. The royal clay pulsed in her hands, casting gentle blue light across the room. Darren knelt in front of her. "Lyra, listen to me. Before I shape anything, I must know something. Why does the clay glow stronger when you hold it? I have never seen that before." Lyra looked at her hands for a long moment. "Because I have part of the clay spirit inside me." Darren blinked. "The clay spirit? That is a myth." Lyra shook her head. "Not a myth. My family was born with a connection to it. The royal clay is alive. It chooses who can hold it. And it listens to me, just like it listens to you." Darren frowned. "But I am human. How can it listen to me?" Lyra gave him a small, sad smile. "My father told me that long ago, before I was born, he saved a group of humans lost in the storms. As thanks, the clay spirits blessed his family and the humans who helped rebuild the kingdom. It said humans could help restore balance one day." Darren rubbed his chin. He had heard stories of humans helping shape the early cities, but no one spoke of blessings or spirits. It sounded like old legends. But then again, living clay itself was something beyond science. The pounding stopped. A cold silence filled the shop outside. "They will break in soon," Darren said. "We must work fast." He took the royal clay from Lyra. The moment it touched his palms, a warm shock rushed up his arms, like holding living fire. The clay seemed to breathe. It glowed brighter with every heartbeat. Darren's hands moved without thinking. He was a master of shaping clay, but this clay, it moved with him, as if it wanted to become something new. Lyra watched him with wide eyes. "You can feel it, can't you?" Yes, he whispered. It is like shaping a living creature. The clay twisted, curled, and stretched under his fingers. Darren shaped it into a long, narrow object. But the clay resisted when he tried to shape it into a simple key. It stretched upward, almost refusing. Lyra stood up. Not like that. It must be shaped. In my father's design. She lifted her hands and traced a shape in the air, a spiral with 3 points and a long tail. A key of unity, she whispered. My father said only this key can unlock the prison door. It was his own design to protect himself from betrayal. Darren followed her movements, shaping the clay carefully. As he did, a strange sound filled the room, a soft humming, like distant voices chanting. The clay glowed brighter and brighter until the whole room shone like daylight. Then, suddenly, the clay went still. The key was complete. It shimmered with a light so pure and strong that Darren had to look away. But Lyra stepped closer, her small fingers brushing the surface. The key responded instantly, sending a gentle wave of light through the room. It's perfect, she whispered. You made it exactly right. Before Darren could speak, the beam on the door behind him shook hard. Someone slammed against it again and again. They found this room, Darren said quietly. Another slam. The beam cracked. Lyra grabbed the finished key and held it close. We must go. The tunnels under the city can take us to my father. But once we enter them, there is no turning back. Darren looked at the small princess, standing brave with the glowing key. Her eyes filled with fear, but also strong determination. He nodded. Then we go now. He lifted a heavy stone panel in the floor, revealing a dark staircase leading into the unknown. As they climbed down, the door behind them finally shattered, but Darren and Lyra were already disappearing into the deep. Ancient tunnels. The journey to the king had begun. The stone panel slid shut above. Then, just seconds before the workshop door burst open, the sound of armored boots and angry voices echoed faintly through the ceiling. Darren and Lyra moved down the narrow staircase, leaving the warm shop light behind. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Small crystals on the tunnel walls glowed just enough for them to see the path ahead. Lyra held the royal clay key tightly, and its gentle blue glow lit her face. Darren kept looking back, expecting to hear guards climbing down after them. But all he heard was Lyra's fast breathing and the soft hum of the clay in her hands. Are you sure this tunnel is safe? Darren whispered. As safe as anything can be, Lyra said softly. These tunnels were made long ago by my ancestors. Only the royal family knows all the paths, or knew them. Her voice dimmed at the final words. Darren noticed her sadness. We will find your father, he said. I promise. Lyra tried to smile, but her eyes were heavy with worry. I hope so, Master of Clay. I really hope so. They reached the bottom of the staircase, entering a wide underground hall shaped like a dome. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, and some glowed faintly when Lyra passed near them, as if reacting to her presence. Darren's eyes widened. Does the tunnel know who you are? Lyra nodded. Yes, it only recognizes the royal blood. Before Darren could ask more, a distant rumble echoed behind them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra gasped. They are breaking the floor above. They will reach the tunnel soon. Darren grabbed her hand. Then we must keep moving. They ran into the next corridor, their footsteps mixing with the low hum of the crystals. The tunnel forked into 3 paths. Lyra closed her eyes, holding the key close to her chest. The clay glowed stronger, and the light gently pointed to the middle path. This way, she whispered. The tunnel narrowed as they went deeper. Strange clay creatures, small harmless ones, watched them from high ledges. They looked like animals but were made entirely from hardened clay. Darren had heard of these, the clay guardians, protectors of the old passages. They will not harm us, Lyra said. They serve the royal family. But as they passed, one of the clay creatures let out a soft cry, like a warning call. Darren froze. "That wasn't for us," he said. "They are calling out because someone is behind us." Lyra's eyes widened. A sudden echoing voice came from the distance, bouncing off the tunnel walls. "Find the human. Find the girl. They cannot escape." Darren's heart dropped. The guards had reached the tunnels. "Move," he whispered urgently. They ran again. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern filled with glowing lakes of liquid clay. The lakes bubbled softly, giving off a warm, shining mist. The sight was beautiful but dangerous. Anyone who slipped in would be trapped forever in the thick substance. Lyra stepped carefully on the narrow stone path that cut through the lakes. Darren followed close, making sure she didn't fall. The glowing mist made it hard to see, and every step felt uncertain. Then behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. The guards were entering the cavern. Darren turned toward Lyra. "Keep going. Don't stop." "What about you?" she asked, fear creeping back into her voice. "I will slow them down," Darren said. "No." Lyra grabbed his arm. "We stay together." Darren met her eyes. She was trembling, but there was strong courage inside her. He nodded. "All right. Then we keep going. But fast." They hurried down the stone path. The glowing mist made their shadows long and strange. One wrong step and they could fall into the liquid clay below. Behind them, a guard shouted, "There! The human and the princess. Capture them alive." "Princess." The word echoed through the cavern like thunder. Lyra tightened her grip on Darren's sleeve. "They know who I am now," Darren whispered. "Then we run harder." They reached the end of the stone path and entered another tunnel. This one was narrow and low, forcing them to crouch. The ceiling dripped with glowing clay drops that hissed when they hit the ground. The tunnel curved sharply. After a few long minutes of crawling, they reached a wider hall with carved pillars and ancient symbols. Lyra pointed ahead. "We are close to the old elevator. It will take us deeper to the vault where my father is." Darren sighed with relief. "Good, we can rest for a moment." He stopped. A rumbling sound filled the hall. Then a roar. A deep, angry roar that shook the floor. Lyra's face turned pale. No, not this creature. A massive shadow stepped into view from the darkness. Red eyes glowed. Heavy steps thud. Darren whispered, "What is that?" Lyra trembled. "The clay beast of the deep. It guards the king's prison, and it attacks anyone who tries to reach him." The creature growled, its chest glowing with the same light as the royal clay. "And it does not know," Lyra whispered, "that we are here to save him." The clay beast stepped fully into the hall, and the ground trembled under its weight. Its body was shaped from ancient clay, thick and hard like stone. Glowing cracks ran across its body like veins of blue fire. Its large eyes burned red, focusing on Darren and Lyra with slow, deadly attention. Lyra gripped Darren's arm so tightly that her fingers shook. "Don't move," she whispered. "It senses motion. If we move too fast, it will attack." Darren swallowed hard. The creature was bigger than any clay form he had ever shaped. Twice his height, wide as a boulder, and growling like a storm trapped inside a cave. He whispered, "Can it be reasoned with?" Lyra shook her head. "No, it was shaped long ago to guard the king. It doesn't think, it only follows the ancient order, Destroy anyone who gets close. The clay beast stomped once, and dust rained from the ceiling. Its glowing chest pulsed like a heartbeat. Darren looked around. The hall was large, filled with tall stone pillars and glowing lines etched into the floor. The air was heavy with the scent of clay and old power. They had nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. Suddenly, the beast leaned forward, sniffing the air. Its red eyes locked onto the key in Lyra's hand. It senses the royal clay. Lyra gasped. Darren placed himself in front of her without thinking. "Stay behind me," the beast roared, shaking the entire hall. The sound blasted through Darren's bones. Then it charged. Darren grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind a pillar just before the beast slammed into the stone. The pillar cracked, pieces flying everywhere. The ground shook violently. "We won't survive like this," Darren said through heavy breaths. Lyra pressed her back against the pillar. "We must reach the elevator. It's the only way down." Darren looked at the beast. It was already recovering, turning its massive head to find them again. He tightened his fist. "Then we distract it. And move." Lyra looked at him with fear. "What will you do?" Darren took a deep breath. "Something only a human clay shaper can do." He stepped out from behind the pillar. The clay beast roared and charged again. But Darren slammed his palms onto the floor. The ground answered. Lines of soft clay burst from the cracks in the stone, rushing like liquid toward his hands. The clay rose, obeying him, swirling around his arms. It glowed the same blue as the royal clay. Lyra gasped. "Master of Clay." The clay beast lunged, but Darren raised his arms, and a thick clay wall shot up from the floor, blocking the attack. The beast smashed into the wall, sending cracks racing across it. Darren gritted his teeth. "This thing is strong." The beast tore through the wall, angry and wild. Darren jumped aside as its claws slashed the air. He stretched his arms forward, and the clay around him formed long ropes that wrapped around the beast's leg. The beast stumbled, roaring in fury. Darren shouted, "Lyra, run to the elevator." Lyra hesitated, tears in her eyes. "But you go," he yelled. The clay beast broke the clay ropes like they were nothing. It turned toward Darren again, chest glowing brighter with rage. Lyra ran across the hall, heading toward a tall stone structure with glowing symbols, the old elevator. She placed the royal clay key into a slot on the panel. The symbols lit up in a cascading wave of blue light. The elevator doors began to open. The beast roared and turned toward her. "No!" Darren shouted. He slammed his hands to the floor again. A wave of clay burst upward, forming a second guardian, this one shaped like a large clay wolf. It leapt at the clay beast, biting into its shoulder. The beast fought back fiercely, claws tearing through the wolf's body, but the wolf held it down for a moment, just long enough. "Lyra, inside!" Darren shouted. She jumped into the elevator. "Come quickly!" Darren sprinted across the hall. The beast threw off the clay wolf and roared in fury. It chased after Darren, the ground shaking under its steps. Darren dove into the elevator just as the clay beast reached out with a massive claw. Lyra pulled the key from the slot. The doors slammed shut. A loud crash shook the elevator, the beast's claw hitting the metal. They both panted heavily as the elevator began sinking deeper into the earth, leaving the clay beast roaring behind them. Lyra wiped tears from her cheeks. "You saved me again." Darren leaned against the wall, exhausted. "We're not safe yet. What's below us?" Lyra held the key close. Its glow reflected in her trembling eyes. "My father," she whispered, "and the worst secret of our kingdom." The elevator continued to descend into darkness. The elevator kept sinking deeper and deeper into the earth. The warm blue lights inside flickered softly, but the world outside the glass walls was nothing but darkness. Even the glowing crystals in the upper tunnels were gone now. Here, Only ancient rock swallowed the light. Lyra stood close to Darren, gripping the royal clay key with both hands. Her face looked tired, worried, and too young for the danger around her. Darren watched her, wondering how a child carried so much burden on her small shoulders. "How far down does this go?" he asked. Lyra swallowed. "To the lowest level. The place where the first kings ruled. The place no one visits anymore. And your father is there?" "Yes," she hesitated. "Locked inside the Hall of Silence." Darren frowned. "Silence?" Lyra nodded. "It's a prison where no sound can escape. No call for help. No echo. No voice at all." Her eyes softened with sadness. "He has been alone there. For so long." The elevator slowed. The lights dimmed. A soft chime rang. They had arrived. When the doors opened, they stepped into a vast underground chamber. The air was cold and still, like it hadn't been touched for years. The walls were carved with ancient symbols, glowing faintly. The floor was smooth stone, cracked in places like old skin. Lyra pointed toward a long stairway leading even deeper. "He is below. We must hurry." They walked quietly, their steps echoing. Darren could feel a strange energy here, heavy, almost watching them. Every symbol on the walls seemed alive, glowing brighter when Lyra passed near them. At the bottom of the stairs stood a massive circular door. It was made of stone and glowing clay, twisted together in a spiral shape. In the center was a keyhole shaped exactly like the royal clay key. Lyra stepped forward, her hands shaking. "This door. It only opens for the true king or his blood." She placed the key into the keyhole. A deep hum filled the chamber. The door glowed brighter and brighter, until the light was almost blinding. Then with a deep rumble, it began to slide open. Inside the Hall of Silence, dim blue light shimmered on the walls. Chains made of clay hung from the ceiling. And at the center, kneeling, resting against a stone pillar, was a man, the king. His clothes were torn. His armor cracked. His silver hair hung long, and his skin was pale. But when the door opened, his eyes slowly lifted. "Lyra," he whispered, though his voice seemed swallowed by the room's magic. Lyra ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "Father." She wrapped her arms around him tightly. Darren stood at the doorway, letting them have their moment. The king lifted his weak hand and rested it on Lyra's shoulder. "My daughter, you made it. You survived." Lyra sobbed softly. "I had to. I had to find you. I brought the key. Darren helped me." The king's tired eyes shifted to the human. He gave a slow, grateful nod. Before Darren could step closer, a loud clapping sound echoed through the chamber. Clap, clap, clap. Darren's stomach dropped. He knew that sound. It was slow, mocking, and filled with danger. From the shadows behind the pillars, a tall figure stepped forward wearing sharp armor, glowing lines of red across the chest. General Crass. His cold eyes shone with victory. Princess. King. Human. How touching. Truly touching. Lyra grabbed her father tighter. "Crass, no. You shouldn't be here." Crass smirked. "Oh, but I should. I followed you from the moment you escaped the upper city. Did you really think your little tunnels could hide you from me?" Darren stepped in front of Lyra and the king. "So all of this, the guards, the tunnels, the clay beast, you planned everything?" Crass nodded slowly. "The king refused to give me the royal clay. He said its power was too dangerous." His eyes sharpened. "But I know the truth. With royal clay, I can reshape this entire world. I can become more than a general. I can become ruler of every kingdom." Darren clenched his fists. "You betrayed your own king." Crass laughed. "Betrayed? No, I evolved." He pointed at Lyra. "As for the princess, Her bloodline carries the last connection to the clay spirits. I needed her out of the way. But she ran. His eyes narrowed. And you, human, you helped her. You ruined my plans. Darren stepped forward. You won't touch her. Crass lifted his gauntlet. Clay symbols lit up along his arm. Oh, but I will. I will take the princess. I will take the king. And I will take that key. The stone walls trembled. The door behind them began to close, trapping them inside. Lyra whispered, trembling, Darren, I'm scared. Darren looked at Crass, his jaw tight, his hands glowing faintly with clay energy. Stay behind me, he said, and the showdown began. The stone door behind them slammed shut with a heavy boom. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air in the Hall of Silence grew tighter, colder, as if even the walls knew a battle was about to begin. General Crass stepped forward, his armor glowing with red symbols that pulsed like angry fire. His cruel smile never left his face. You cannot win, human, he said. This chamber was built to drain the strength of anyone who defies the crown. And now, he pointed at himself. I am the crown. Lyra pressed herself against her father, trembling. The king tried to stand but collapsed again. Too weak after months in the silent prison, Darren stepped forward, positioning himself between them and Crass. His hands tingled with clay energy, glowing faintly in the dim blue light. You took the kingdom, Darren said quietly. You locked your own king in chains. You chased a child through the city. That is not strength. That is fear. Crass laughed, cold and sharp. I fear nothing. Not humans. Not children. Not even the clay spirits. He raised his gauntlet, and the symbols on it burned brighter. Clay fragments from the walls flew toward him, swirling and shaping into a massive spear with a glowing red tip. Lyra gasped. That is Forbidden's clay shaping. He is using dark clay. Darren clenched his fists. Stay back. Crass pointed the spear at him. Die, master of clay. The spear shot forward like a bolt of lightning. Darren moved fast. He dropped to one knee and slammed both palms onto the floor. The ground answered. Clay erupted upward, forming a thick shield in front of him. The spear struck the shield with a loud crack, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Darren gritted his teeth. The shield cracked, but did not break. Crass narrowed his eyes. Impressive, but pointless. Darren rose slowly, breathing hard. Sweat ran down his forehead, but his eyes held fire. You don't understand clay, Crass. You only use it. It does not follow you. Crass sneered. Clay follows power. No, Darren said. Clay follows the heart. He extended his arms, and the clay around his feet swirled upward like a growing storm. It wrapped around his legs, chest, arms, forming armor shaped like flowing stone with blue veins of light. Lyra stared in awe. Darren, you're controlling all the clay in the room. The king whispered weakly, no human has done this. Not in hundreds of years. Crass growled. Enough. If you want to play king, human, then die like one. He slammed his spear into the floor, sending a wave of dark red clay racing toward Darren like a rising wall. Darren charged forward. The clay under his feet lifted him, carrying him like a wave. He leapt high, his armor glowing bright blue, and swung his arm. A massive clay fist formed from the floor and slammed into the oncoming wave, breaking it apart. Crass roared in frustration. "You are just a human." Darren landed hard, cracking the stone under him. "I am the master of clay, and I protect those who cannot protect themselves." Crass rushed forward, spear in hand. Darren met him halfway. Clay and metal clashed. Blue and red lights exploded across the chamber. Every strike shook the floor. Every hit sent sparks flying. Crass swung the spear toward Darren's head, but Darren's clay armor formed a helmet. Crass stabbed at his chest, but Darren's armor hardened. Crass tried to knock him down, but the clay beneath Darren's feet rose to help him stand. The clay protected him, because the clay trusted him. Finally, Crass raised his spear for a final killing blow, but Darren shouted, "Clay rise!" The ground beneath Crass exploded upward, forming a massive clay serpent that wrapped around him. Lifting him into the air, Crass screamed, struggling. But the serpent held tight. Darren stepped forward, his armor cracking but still glowing. "This ends now." The serpent tightened, then slammed Crass against the wall. Once, twice, a third time. Crass fell limp. The dark spear shattering into pieces. The chamber fell silent. Lyra ran to Darren and hugged him tightly. "You did it. You saved us." Darren knelt to her level, breathing heavily. "We saved each other." The king slowly stood with Lyra's help. His voice was weak but full of respect. "Human, you have done what even my royal guards could not. You protected my daughter. You freed me. You restored the balance of clay." He bowed his head. A king bowing to a human, Lyra smiled warmly. "Master of clay, you answered my boldest request." Darren looked at the broken armor of Crass, then at the glowing clay beneath his feet. "This world needs rebuilding," he said softly. The king nodded. "And humans will have a place in that new world. By royal decree." Lyra took Darren's hand. "Come with us. My father needs someone he can trust. And I need someone who sees me as more than a title." Darren smiled gently. "Then let's go. We have a kingdom to fix." And in the deep silence of the ancient hall, the clay spirits glowed bright with approval, echoing the rise of a human who became a legend.